Hello, I'm Dr. Deborah Bravoy with Anchored Hope Counseling. Welcome to our YouTube program, Hope Talks. We have some great content provided by our amazing counselors, and we hope that you find it helpful.
Good morning, guys. This is Brad Walker, one of the counselors here at Anchored Hope Counseling, and I'm here today with Jason Amerson. Jason is a licensed professional counselor, and the thing that we wanted to talk to Jason about today is EMDR therapy. We're hearing a lot about that nowadays, and some people are a little bit scared or frightened of it, not really sure what it is, and others seem to be jumping on board just because it's something that they've never heard of before. So tell us a little bit more about what that is exactly, Jason.
Okay, we'll try to keep this concise because I could talk about EMDR all day long.
Okay.
I would say I use EMDR with probably 70 to 80% of my clients actually.
Okay.
I'll be completely honest. When I first heard of EMDR, I thought that is one of the weirdest things I've ever heard of in my life. How could that possibly work? Until I went through EMDR therapy myself. So it's something that I have experienced on both a personal level and a professional level in helping other people. So,
Okay.
And it worked for me, and I was like, okay, there's something to this. I got to figure out more about this and learn about it. So, EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So there's several caveats to that. It's a little misleading because we don't only use eye movement. We use what's called bilateral stimulation, and that is just a pattern of left-right movements. It can either be with your eyes, or I have a tool called tappers that you hold in your hand, and it's almost like if you had a cell phone in each hand that was set to vibrate. It just vibrates in your hand. And what that does is it stimulates the left and right hemispheres of your brain and allows your brain to process memories differently than it does when you just talk about it and talk therapy.
Okay.
That's the crux of the whole thing. But let me get into some more detail because that in itself is a little confusing. So I want to talk about exactly what the process looks like. Because a lot of people kind of just hear that and go, well, that's weird. I'm just going to sit and think about my problems while I move my eyes, and that's supposed to make me better somehow.
Get my hands zapped.
Get my hands zapped, and that's supposed to work somehow. So basically, let me just start with a brief. We could do a whole talk just about trauma in general, but let me give just a brief introduction because EMDR is typically a trauma-based therapy. Okay. And a lot of people come in and say, well, my problems really don't have anything to do with trauma. I don't have any major, because a lot of people, when they hear the word trauma, they automatically relate it to these catastrophic events that people go through, like a soldier that's been to war and comes back with PTSD, or somebody that's been in a life-threatening situation. Okay. But I always like to compare it to physical things because we all have a basic understanding of physical problems, and I think we can relate that and understand that a lot better than we do emotional problems sometimes. So by the textbook definition, a physical trauma is anything that causes damage to your tissue, right? So if I just even get a bruise on my hand or on my arm, technically that's a physical trauma, right? Now we know that's a small thing. I'm not going to have any real medical attention or anything. It's going to heal on its own. But there's a whole scale of different physical traumas that may range to something that we don't need any help with at all, like a bruise. It's going to resolve on its own, to something that maybe we need stitches for. We need a little help with that, even though it's not a life or death situation. Right. And emotional trauma is the same way. It's anything that damages you emotionally or causes you some type of emotional pain, right? And so it's not just these huge things that are like life or death situations or a soldier who's been at war. There's a whole range and scale of things that we consider trauma. Anything that has damaged you emotionally is considered trauma. And so just to have an understanding of that word, because there's a lot of people that think I don't need EMDR because I haven't been through any major I call those big T traumas. Right. And there's little t and there's medium T too. And so a lot of people come in and they don't realize that some of their problems that they're having are related to things that they've been through in their past. They don't necessarily consider them trauma, but it really is because it damaged them emotionally. And so what we do in the very beginning is just take a good assessment. So your first session, maybe even the first couple of sessions when you come in, what we do is just kind of talk about, why are you here? What caused you to pick up the phone and make an appointment? What are your expectations? What are you expecting out of therapy, and what do you want to gain? What do you want to change? And then a lot of times people will realize that, hey, the reason I'm having a problem, even like with relationships, is because of emotional damage I've been through in my past relationships, right? And so it's tied to trauma, even though they may have not realized that when they came in. And so we take a good assessment of where are you at, and how could this be related to some type of emotional damage you've been through in the past, some type of trauma. And then what we do is we tie it into a negative thought, because trauma causes us to have negative outlooks and negative beliefs about either ourselves or the world around us. So example, if someone was in a really bad car wreck, right? Their negative thought, or negative cognition, we call it, may be that, hey, it's not safe to go anywhere, right? The world's not safe. If somebody has been damaged through verbal abuse growing up or something like that, they may have a negative thought of, I'm not good enough, right? And so what we do is we try to identify, what are your basic negative thoughts, negative outlooks about either yourself or the world around you. And then we do a timeline, and we go back and we say, go back as far as you can in your life, and I want you to try to remember the first time you remember feeling that way. And that's our first kind of target thought or memory that we look at in the EMDR process. And then we move throughout our lifespan and go, these are all the events that have happened that have caused me to believe that, hey, the world's an unsafe place, or that I'm not good enough, or whatever. There could be thousands of different negative thoughts or beliefs that people have. Okay. And so that's how we develop what we call our target memories. So what we want to do is change that negative belief, which is probably what's causing a lot of anxiety, right? If I go camping and I get attacked by a bear in the woods and I somehow survive that, I'm probably going to have a little bit of problem or anxiety the next time somebody calls me and says, hey, Jason, we're going on a camping trip. You want to go with us? So the source of my anxiety is the trauma that I went through. So we explore what the target memories are going to be. And then what we do is we do some education and learning about how to handle anxiety, because we're going to ask you to go back to these memories. A lot of our traumas we try to avoid, right? I don't want to think about that bad thing that happened to me because it makes me feel bad, right? So when I think about it, it's a negative memory. It triggers my negative beliefs about myself or the world around me, and I feel bad. And a lot of times people have actual physical reactions to memories, whether it's anxiety. I've had people tell me that when they think of certain memories, they actually feel physically sick to their stomach. I've had people tell me that they feel tension all over their body. I've had some people even tell me they feel things in the bottom of their feet. When I think about that memory, it's like my toes just want to grab the carpet. It creeps me out so bad. And so we focus on what physical reaction are you having to these memories. And so we educate about that. And then when we start the actual EMDR reprocessing is the next phase after we identify the target memories. We have people close their eyes, go back. I want you to, whatever target memory that we've picked out to process that day, we say, I want you to close your eyes. I want you to go back to that time as clearly as possible and use all your senses to engage in it. What did you see? What did you hear? What did it feel like? Even smells sometimes are very triggering to people. You know, what was going on in that moment? And we have you go back to that moment as much as possible. That can be very difficult for people because it's hard to go back when you spend all your time trying not to think about those things. We're asking you to confront it head on. But that's when we start applying the bilateral stimulation, so either through the tappers or the eye movements. And there's several theories out there about why it works. It's one of those things to where scientifically there's lots of different ideas as to why it works, but we just know that it works, right? Some of it is when you're distracted by doing the eye movements or by the buzzing in your hand, you don't go as deep into that memory and feel all the negativity. So it allows you to think about it and process it without with the distraction there that helps you. And there's other theories that say it just actually, the left-right movement stimulates the left and right sides of your brain and allows you to think of it differently than you would if you were just talking about. So there's several theories as to why it works. But we have you think of a memory, and then we start applying bilateral stimulation. So we'll either have you move your eyes back and forth. I actually have an iPod that has a bar on it that moves back and forth, that I sit in front of people's face and they move their eyes back and forth while they're thinking of their traumatic memory. And then we just let our thoughts go wherever they want to. So we don't stay on the traumatic memory. We let your thoughts come and go wherever they go. And I have people that go from crying 1 minute to laughing because they're like, I just thought of a Pop-Tart and I don't know why. And that's actually a good thing, because what we're doing is we're creating new neural networks in your brain, because when you think of a traumatic memory, you tend to get stuck there and stay there.
Right.
And it's all negative. It's all negative feelings. We're creating a new pathway to get to a positive. So when people do that, they, over time, we create a new pathway to the most traumatic, awful event of your life to something either neutral or positive, and it reduces the negative effect you have from it. And that's EMDR in a nutshell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like a pretty interesting process. Hopefully we'll be able to sit down with Jason and spend a little bit more time kind of walking through this a little bit further, so that we have a better idea of what all that involves. But we appreciate your time. And you guys be sure and check out our YouTube channel and Hope Talks. Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching Hope Talks. We hope this information was beneficial for you. Please be sure to check out our other videos. And if you would please like the video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, we would really appreciate it. Thanks so much and have a blessed day.